I don't know who Usha Mehta is. And her contribution to the Indian national movement is huge. There might be stories that are left gumnami mein hi kho gaye hain. To understand a world where you could be hung for broadcasting a radio channel. I have 2 more cups of coffee and I'll be cracking NG jokes with you right now. But that doesn't mean that this is not me.
Sara, it feels like we've been socially with you over the weekend, actively sort of participating in the Jamnagar celebration. But is there withdrawal symptoms?
Honestly, not at all. I think that I went to school with Anant. So Neeta ma'am, who I still call Neeta ma'am because she was my chairperson. So Neeta ma'am, Mukesh uncle, they're all so warm. Radhika's a good friend of mine. And I think the warmth and hospitality that they gave all of us was just amazing. But there's absolutely, like, with all due respect, zero withdrawal, because I've come back to promoting 2 films back to back. 2 such different films. Both my trailers are out. Songs of both my films are about to start coming out. So I'm just gratified and humbled by just the amount of work that I have. And it was, I did have to leave the celebration a little early. I've left at 2:30 in the morning to come back straight for promotions. So absolutely the opposite of withdrawal.
But you know, Sara, I know this is not a biopic of Usha Mehta, but tell me, what was your understanding of the freedom fighter? And did being a history graduate in any way sort of impact your understanding?
I think that being a history graduate impacted me as a person. Because what happened is I realized that as an avid history reader, I don't know who Usha Mehta is. And that is very curious, because what she did was huge. And her contribution to the Indian national movement is huge. The fact that she galvanized people all over the country by using radio as a medium and came up with a radio station, "Hum banayenge apna radio station," is a dialogue that she says. So actually what I realized is that there are so many unsung stories of so much contribution that is not just brute strength or physical bravery or masculine sacrifice, that there might be stories that are left gumnami mein hi kho gaye hain. So I think being a history student actually made me realize the urgency and need for these stories to be brought in the forefront to people even more.
No, but it's interesting, Sara, for you, because you come from a lineage which dates back to royalty and even arts. I was reading, and which I figured today, that one of your great grandfathers, I think, was a barrister of Assam, and he was actively also involved in the freedom movement. Growing up, were you ever aware of the weight of the history, of your own family history?
I didn't know about my own family history, honestly. Like, this is news to me. So that's amazing. No, I didn't know that. But I've grown up reading a lot about history, and you know, people talk about privilege so much in our world that I think that the greatest privilege that all of us actually share, that makes us more similar than different, is the fact that we're all free citizens. And I think that right now the comparison, instead of privileged and not privileged, needs to be about free and not free, because I am telling you a story about the opposite of privilege. I'm telling you a story about a time where freedom, independence was not there. To understand a world where you could be hung for broadcasting a radio channel. I mean, freedom is privilege, and we all have it.
But Sara, it's an interesting word that you mentioned, privilege, because especially on social media, it's a word that's heavily influenced. I mean, it's heavily used for anyone who comes from a privileged background.
Because today stakes are less. Because today we're all free. So today the fact that my father is somebody else and somebody else's father, somebody else becomes privilege. And it is a privilege. I do come from a world of privilege, I don't deny that. But what I'm trying to tell you is, in this story, in this film, we are telling a story about the opposite of any form of privilege. Everybody in this room today is privileged because we're free citizens. Everybody in this country is privileged today because we are free citizens.
What does it mean to be an Indian today then, Sara?
To be part of a secular democratic republic. To be able to make your own decisions. To be able to not be afraid. To be able to know that you can broadcast something and you won't be arrested for it. To be able to govern people that have the same thought process as you and not aliens with a different skin color. That's freedom.
Yeah, yeah. There's a wonderful line in the trailer which says, we need to speak the truth to overcome the lies. And sort of like it truly stayed with me. Is there misinformation about Sara Ali Khan that you feel needs to be done away with?
No, because it's not about being done away with. It's just people, I think what tends to happen is because I'm funny, because I'm loud, because I can be bindas, people can think that that's all there is to me. So I think that is me. Today, like, I have 2 more cups of coffee and I'll be cracking NG jokes with you right now. But that doesn't mean that this is not me. That doesn't mean that a little bit of gravitas isn't part of my personality. So I think that, you know, people get so into poles, this or that, ye or wo, dono kyun nahi ho sakte? Why can't I have a sense of humor, but also have a sense of self-respect?
But have you been asked to tone it down, quote unquote, so that...
No, I don't think...
That's a good way.
People are aware of my limitations of filtering myself. I don't think they'll venture into that domain.
But it's such an interesting space to be in, Sara, because from the point of view that I look at it, it's like your expression of self is in a way in sort of constant conflict with the image of a star. Where people want you to be a certain way, because generally people want actresses to be a certain demure image, and you are really like this very silly, funny person. It must be conflicting at times?
See, it's not conflicting if people can allow me to be who I am all the time, because I am silly and I am funny and that is who I am, but that's not all that I am. I run the risk sometimes of trivializing my own self. I run the risk of people not being able to take me seriously, so much so as the main reaction I'm actually seeing for the trailer of Ae Watan Mere Watan is a hint of surprise. People are shocked. They're like, what is this girl doing? And I'm really proud of that. I don't want people to think that just because I'm funny doesn't mean I'm not emotional or sensitive or even a good actor, because I don't think that's true.
That's true. What isn't surprising about Sara, about you, is that, and there is clearly a pattern that you are exceptional in roles which are inherently rooted. I mean, let's say Kedarnath, for example, or in Atrangire or here, there is evidently a certain gravitas that comes, and also what other people are also noticing is your Hindi diction is so extremely clear, which perhaps helps in films like these. Despite you studying in Columbia University, are you aware of these strengths of yours?
Yeah. I am aware that I speak the language well. I am aware, but to me it's not different to who I am. Like when people, like being rooted is not my image, it is me. It is who I am. When I am traveling, I love eating local food. I love चौकड़ी मार के ज़मीन पे बैठ के अच्छा गरम गरम चूल्हे का खाना खाना मुझे बहुत अच्छा लगता है. तो ये मैं हूँ. तो अब क्या करूँ?
You know, but Sara, it's something so nice, and I was just wondering, how do you do it? Because here you have a film like this, then there is a Murder Mubarak, then you do a Zara Hatke, Zara Bachke. No, these are films of very varied genres. If you're selecting all these, what are you rejecting? And what doesn't really make a cut then? Because it's like quite a span.
It's not about that, you know. It's about just being able to see. I think I'm finally reaching the stage in my work where I'm learning things about myself through this work, you know, and not one is more trivial than the other. My brother saw parts of Murder Mubarak and has turned around and said, Sara, you're looking so hot. He's my brother, he's only called me fatty my whole life. So when he says that I'm looking glamorous, that's huge for me. I didn't know I could look glamorous because everybody was like, oh, she's so relatable, अरे ये तो सिर्फ सलवार कमीज पहनती है. लेकिन अगर मुझे निक्के निक्के कपड़े कर दोगे मैं हॉट भी लग सकती हूँ. ये तो मुझे भी नहीं पता था. But this is different. This is even more. Now in a film like Ae Watan Mere Watan, there is a sense of self-confidence, self-respect, gravity, softness, simplicity that's so inherent in my character that I had to find it within me and realize that actually I have it the whole time. So I'm reaching the stage where playing these characters is making me understand how much I have within me.
Right.
So it's really interesting.
Does being a warrior though ever come in the way of will I not, being an overthinker, ever sort of interfere either in the process or you choosing a film?
I tried to start practicing. अब फैसला ले लिया है, अब बस करना है.
Is it something that you were overthinking here with this one, with Ae Mere Watan?
No.
Nothing?
Because I watched this, like, my mom has only sat with me on 2 narrations. Kedarnath is one of them and this is another. And in the climax of both the films, me and my mother were both crying. And I think that's a sign.
But why did you take her for this narration? Any specific reason?
I just wanted her to hear it. Very strange.
Yeah.
Very strange. Random. No reason why I would take her for this and not like Zara Hatke. But I did.